Hello, cousins. Welcome to SASS Mass, our spirituality and support symposium. Think morning witchy chats around a warm campfire. The recording has started, and by participating in SASS, you agree to read and accept the terms of engagement, which we will post in the chat. We ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. We will now get started with a few announcements.
Maria's not here, so I'm totally going rogue, guys. This is great. Hi. Announcements. Okay, so I'm gonna move my mic because I still have it all like scooched out of the way this morning. Okay, so today, later this afternoon, is the refinement lab for the members of the Spellcrafters Guild. So quick reminder about that. It's funny slash interesting that we don't really have to make announcements about events and things now that we have the app, because like the app reminds you and like repeatedly if you want it to of these events. But yes, later this afternoon is the refinement lab for those of you that are members of the Spellcrafters Guild. To become a member of the Spellcrafters Guild, you have to complete foundations. Once you complete foundations, you get that invitation. And the guild is focused on your magical practice specifically, where foundations really focuses on the shadow work and preparation for a magical practice that is a reflection of your authentic self. The guild is helping you actually create that magical practice and helping you kind of see, or giving you structure to engage with your magic in an expansive way. So there's that. And then we also, on the 6th of September, the 6th of September, we're having a birthday party, because it marks our 3-year anniversary of the very first meeting we ever held at the Resource Center. And so it's a significant, like we have a relationship with threes here. And so it's like it's a significant birthday. And at the same time, in the next couple of weeks, there's all kinds of like really big changes, both in my personal life as well as like what we're doing at the Resource Center, because we have this new app and right. Did I do all of it? The 6th and the app. It's been really great seeing you guys in the lives every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We've been going live on TikTok and on Instagram. And it's been really fun engaging with you guys and answering questions. And I do intend to do more of all of that once I get moved and settled down in my RV that we secured. So I have a home. I have a home that I'm going to be going to. And now I'm just kind of literally shifting weight from one reality or life to this new life, and starting to ship things down to be in my like RV. And I'm also like selling off a bunch of stuff up here in Alaska to raise funds for this like new life that I'm doing. And I've been all up in my processing the last, like, since my big tower moment. What was that? 2 new moons ago, something like that. And I'm really proud of the work that I've done. Super proud of how I've managed to do this. But what's really interesting is how many people are resistant to even acknowledging that what I'm experiencing right now is hard and difficult and challenging. Most people's response when I say, "Hey, I'm like really, I'm going through it, like I'm having these tiny moments of panic, like throughout my day as I like scale out and think about all of it." And people immediately go to, "But all of this good stuff is coming." And it's like, but look, you're aligning with your new life and that you've got all of this support and everything. And it's like, yes, yes. And I am also allowed to feel the full spectrum of this experience. And so that has been really interesting to to witness that. And it's such a stark contrast um, in a lot of ways, especially with those a lot of people do it. It's our knee-jerk reaction because we believe that someone going through or experiencing challenging catalyst is bad. We believe that it's harmful and that they shouldn't have to experience that in some way. So we have all of these resistances, and we're like, our first usual knee jerk autopilot reaction to someone crying or someone like uh, witnessing someone suffering is to make them feel better, to change the way that they're feeling or change their experience to be more positive. And that is 100% because of our social conditioning, 100%. And you can, and it's one of the identifiers of seeing where someone is in their practice in it, allowing themselves to experience challenging things. It's okay. It is hard. Yes, it's an opportunity to ask for support and help, and I'm getting that, which is great. Am I still like experiencing fear? Yes, there's a lot of like those uncertain, those there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm also uh going th I'm also going through practicing. Like I'm not perfect, and I'm perfect is an illusion, and all of those things, right? I totally lost my train of thought and where I was going with that. An example. Perfect as an illusion. I love how I just like walked right into that. Yeah, it is difficulty and sometimes pain. And hearing my community, the best thing, the most supportive thing when you are experiencing intense grief and like intense like fear or change or that kind of stuff, the most supportive thing you can do is validate someone's experience. But we don't do that. We immediately go to, but look at the bright side. But look and just focus on this, right? Just like, look at how much better it's going to be. And we don't realize that that's in completely invalidating someone's experience and dismissing their experience. But we forget when we forget that. Like when we are actually all up in our shit and are met with that constant invalidation of our experience from those that we like lean to for support, we forget how like ick that feels, right? And then we turn around and we do it to those around us, right? When they're experiencing that thing. So yeah, it's this it's really interesting thing. And I catch myself doing that like uh as well sometimes when someone is experiencing suffering. It's like the like healer in me wants to just like do the thing. But it's not always our job to make someone feel better. It's our job to listen to what their needs are and to try and meet them where they are, right? Like if we want to. But that's been an interesting thing. It's just is that too. The whole process has been interesting. Like I love that I've been able to remain pretty objective about like what I'm experiencing and what I'm going through and all of that. While also leaving space to just like let the fuck go and like fall apart and all of that. It's been a really great balance. And I'm actually like sincerely looking forward to seeing how this whole process, and because I'm learning so much about um shifting my like what where I center or how I center my sense of safety and security and stability. It's those the three S's again. This has been an incredible this has been the perfect catalyst to really bring my attention to my relationship with those things and to see how I was still uh, identifying that or putting that in my relationship with a partner. Like to be partnered with someone, that is where that is how I am safe and how I am secure and how I am stable, right? And I am genuinely and sincerely in a position that I get to practice and get to actually uh I get to actually do that trust fall thing into my path that we all get called to every once in a while of like, yeah, you've got the like information, but have you actually applied it to your life? Have you actually done it? Right. And in a lot of ways, I get the opportunity to do it, right? To actually do the thing and be brave and choose my practice and my path and choose alignment and choose to trust that, like the amount of sincerity that that is going to cultivate is like, it's mind boggling when I start thinking about it. So I'm in this really interesting place where it's very balanced of I get it. Like I get it. I can see it. I can see all the like connections and everything. And allowing space for the parts of me that don't get it yet and that like are still reorienting, right? So this has been great. Like I know I mean it's hard, but it's been great in a lot of ways. So, and thank you again for everyone, especially the support team, like jumping in and really giving me that space to do this work and not have to be concerned about our community still being well supported. So, thank you guys for loving us as much as I love us. It's been really cool doing this with all of you. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm open to questions and all of that. If we want to change the subject, we can. I'm cool with that too. Go ahead, Karen.
Right on. I'm just going to keep that going, the catalyst. And I'm probably going to cry a little bit in this one. I talked a lot last week, as we all know, or those that do know me, know that when Karen gets nervous, gets diarrhea of the mouth. So I came back to Bright and Dark. I am one of the founding members, proudly, and I am so grateful to celebrate 3 years that I came back for that catalyst, life changing, life altering catalyst that can take us out. And I'm so grateful that I'm at where I'm at in my practice, because if I were 20 years younger or less in my practice, I don't think I would have made it through this incarnation. That's just straight up facts. For those of us that deal with mental health, depression, and the such, the struggle is fucking real. And all the, pacifiers, as we want to comfort and console people when they're hurting or and going through some shit. Just like we're all trained, as especially I see so many female present. And when the baby cries, shove something in that bitch's mouth. Shut it up. We must stop the negative that we must stop it. And feeling and having people hand me, people that I know and genuinely believe in my heart, care and love me, offering me pacifiers only makes me retreat further. And having to take the downtime to pull away, to be able to see the forest through the trees. Yeah, to regain some perspective. Because when our worlds are turned upside down, whether it's, like I said, whether it's a breakup or a death or an illness, putting the pieces back together, we have the choices on how we do that. In your situation, you know, you're having to, we got to move, we got to go, we got a time limit, we got to go. This is my childhood home. This is I moved in this bedroom when I was 7 years old. The outside of it, the front of it, they refer to as gingerbread. It was built in the early 30s or the late 30s, and it's witchy as fuck. Part of me wants to feel into staying here. Then I doubt my powers. Do I doubt that's possible? So I'm just, you know, because I do have I don't have to evict or eject, which is harder. I mean, if I had to go, I've had officers standing there with flashlights telling me that I'm moving right fucking now. So, I mean, I've had that situation. It's not like this. I have to decide of whether or not I want to dig in and fight for this place, or do I feel into or find another path? And all that was overwhelming when I am going to do the Witchy Way. I still don't know how the fuck it's gonna look, but the Witchy Way Cafe is where it's at. But do I do it here? All those questions became so overwhelming for me when dealing with loss and depression and battles with siblings and all the other things. It just became too much. Now, in a little over 24 hours, we have a new moon, cousins, and I am so excited for it because I am just, and I'm excited. I don't know if am I in Spills Crafters Guild? But I came back, I have to check with Marie on my membership. So at any rate, but you know, it's like with the new moon coming up, setting new intentions, and yeah, I am so grateful to be back, and all of you mean so very much to me. And the new faces, I'm so very glad to see you, and I'm glad that you're here and part of this journey with us. It has been a wild 3 years. Buckle up. Pivots happen regularly and often, and that's what makes this community grow. I have just spent the last week digging into and I'll wait till Akasha, when she gets back, I'll say it again because I'm sure she is the heartbeat of the heartbeat. Just saying. If I'm wrong, correct me if we have a different programmer, because that's badass. The whole thing. I've been like I was digging into it. It looks fantastic. Considering we started with green screen Discord, like what I run the witchy way out of 3 years ago, to have the platform that y'all have built is just so, and it's only going to get bigger. And I'm glad that you guys gave me the space. Several of you reached out to me over the last 5 months and let me know that I was loved and supported, and know that we will stalk you the same. And if you tap out like I did. So, but I am grateful to be back, and yeah, I am so proud of each of you, and thanks for putting up with my bullshit. Renee, you're up.
Hello, everyone. I was going to I'll lower my hand later. I was gonna say I'm taking to heart a lot of what Jen Marie said. And I'm thinking about just deconstructing the idea of like having to fix everything. And I think like a lot of us just in our social conditioning, like you said, like we're conditioned to like try to fix things and make it better. But what I was going to say is also a lot of jobs are like that. Like I know my like corporate job I had forever was like my job was to fix problems. And so just yeah, it's very that's a big thing to try to deconstruct and get out of, because I mean like when I think about it, like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, like it's almost like every aspect of my life has an aspect of like having something that I'm trying to fix or repair or make better. And so thank you, Jen Marie, for giving us some good food for thought. And um it is just funny, like just when you think you're doing good on something, like you know, it's there's always more work to do. So I'm not sure if Ezra or Wit is next, but
Wit had a weigh-in. Ezra, is yours a weigh-in, or were you wanting to add something else?
It's a weigh-in, but let Whit go first.
Okay, Wit, go ahead.
Renee, are you open to a weigh-in? So I just wanted to offer maybe a different perspective from feeling like you have to fix yourself from fixing people. Because unfortunately that's the same loop that you're getting in there, right? Of now, oh, I need now to turn my fixing skills on myself. And Renee, I'm saying this purely from somebody who has been in your shoes of, oh, I got all the fixing, I gotta do it, you know.
I fully recognize I have a lot of stuff to work on, and I very much appreciate it. And I know, yes, I know it. Okay.
Yeah. And so just to reframe it a little bit too, of you have these experiences and we've been socially conditioned for a reason this way. And, you know, in every aspect of my life, I have always been the caretaker, the fixer, the whatever, the person who makes things right, the person behind the scene making things go smoothly, fixing it for everyone. And for a while, I was like, oh, that was wrong of me to do that. I'm wrong, 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 wrong. I got to fix it. Here's all this stuff. And what I've been realizing more recently is like that gave me an experience to know that I can do that. It is a special power that I have too. It is something that I'm really good at. It's not wrong to be that way. It's not wrong to want to help out. It's knowing when to help out, when to kind of sit with that person. It's when do you offer that, and that boundary that you put in place too for making sure you're taking care of yourself too. So yes, you got to turn your fixer on yourself a little bit, but like reframing that a little bit too, because it gets real easy to want to like beat yourself up. Because that's, if you're like me, that's what you're used to doing, is beating yourself up and holding everybody else up, you know? And we didn't know any better then, right? We're starting to learn better now. Well, I'm not. I'm, like I said, recent revelation for me of like, oh, actually, I enjoy doing it. I'm good at doing it, but I don't have to do it every time. So it was not all of my experience that I've had. Yeah, it might have been real shitty. Same thing that Jen Marie said. It may have been real shitty. It may have been real hard, but I've learned stuff from it. And learning to sit in that feeling too is like, I don't know, I think I put this in the chat. Like, I don't know how many times that I've told people this week, like, yeah, we're going to get through this. But it's so shitty right now, and it's okay that it's shitty. And we can have both feelings at the same time of like, I know that I'm going to be okay in all these different situations. I trust myself. I trust my team. I trust Dandy. He's got lots to say about it right now. He's like, mom's getting all sorts of up in the stuff. Let's go.
Yeah.
But being able to just hold that, but also say that this is shitty, and being able to truly sit in it. And like, this is a good time to sit in that feeling too, because now you're feeling it, it's like,
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah. I just want to put in there too, like, I've always had like a problem with consent, and that's something I'm working on all the time. So that those two things like feel really tied together. So I don't want to make this all about me, because it's not about me, but I just feel like I'm like failing in a lot of this, but I am trying. So, and I want to be better, but
you're not failing.
no, I totally appreciate what you said, Whit. No, that's that's another thing I just never think to do, is reframe things, and that's so I appreciate it. And that is something I need to like just keep that option right there, like, okay. And I'll talk about that later, because I actually did that with something yesterday, after I had my migraine all day. But I'm gonna sorry, I just wanted to respond to what you said, Whit, but I think Denbury or Ezra, I'm not, you guys, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm gonna mute.
Dandy has lots to say too, if you can't tell. He's insisted on being up here, so take that and do with that as you will. All right, Ezra.
Yeah, no. So this is actually something. So since I right before I joined Bright and Dark, the fixer like healer thing has been, my thing. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I think I fixed that. And then it comes back, because it's like, in part of it, is conditioning, but part of it is the other part, there's part of you that is your authentic self. And it is just learning those boundaries of, because I also, I have had such a problem with consent in like trying to fix other people, that it became once I learned nonviolent communication, that became like my hyper focus. That's now like my biggest thing, is consensual communication, because my brain just wants to do it, pretty much because of, like the hierarchy that still exists in my head of like, well, I just have a bigger plate than some people, and I can just do that, and I'll just take it off their plate. And then like, and even that is, it's coming from like a very good compassionate place, but it's also coming from like a, you can't handle this, but I can type of dichotomy, right? And so that's actually come up for me again the last month or so. And part of my like release was separation. That was my big release, and I didn't like know that I was going to do that. Like it was different earlier in the week, and then that word was like given to me. And so now, like, all the places where I have separated myself from other people for various reasons that all pretty much come down to safety. Like, I don't like, when I want to fix something for somebody, it's because I feel uncomfortable with their discomfort, and I don't want to be uncomfortable anymore. And so it's like, instead of sitting with them and their discomfort, it is me going, oh, let me fix that real quick so you don't have to feel it, so I don't have to feel it. Like that kind of thing. And so I have been making a practice of it, to sit with that discomfort or that fear or that whatever the like quote unquote negative emotion is that we've been taught not to feel, or that it's going to be such a big deal when we feel it that we're going to die or go crazy or whatever, whatever the nervous system reaction is that is telling us that a big, terrible thing is going to happen if we feel that feeling. And I kind of like it feels like, it's like the analogy that I've been using is like a balloon. Like, we feel like the balloon's going to pop if we feel it all at once, especially because we've been holding on to so much emotional chunk that we haven't been able to feel. But every time we let ourselves sit with that for a moment, it like slowly releases, and then the the balloon becomes more stable. That's kind of like how I've been picturing it. And so I've been working through that a lot. One of the first things that one of the first things that happened was like, how do I heal people? Like before I ever joined Bright and Dark, it's like one of the questions that led me here. And I was like meditating on it and like searching for like info from my guides. And like the message that I received was, go drink some water. Like, and I was like, what? But that's for me, not for other people, you know? And it's like, that's exactly the that's where you can also look into consent with your own system, because I've also realized how much of my brain has been doing things non-consensually, like with my body, right? Like it was just like, you can do these things, you can, you know, this is what I want to do. And then my body like was not even in the picture. So giving my body a voice in what actually is happening in relation to my physical body has been a huge game changer. And it also makes things go slower. And because that's just the way it works, especially when you are a spoonie. But like in general, like the physical world goes like the time thing is literally part of it. You know, everywhere else could happen like instantaneously, like in the um spirit world and stuff. So and that though gives you the opportunity to sit with the things that are uncomfortable and um live a more consensual life, which I found to be a very powerful like modality of existence. Like, you know, it started with, you know, I think Karen mentioned it a minute ago too, but like kind of people that have had maybe very dark moments or like suicidal ideation, that kind of thing. Like there is a common thing I see in like comment threads where it will be like, every day I'm here against my will, right? And I can imagine if you believe that, every moment of existence would feel really hard. Like, and I think, you know, when I was a lot younger, that used to be kind of my like idea of existence, is I didn't ask to be here and like all this stuff. And once I started thinking of everything consensually, even that shifted in my brain. I just decided that I was going to be here on purpose, consensually. And that like has just made so many differences throughout like my daily life. And so I guess I'm just a proponent for sitting with the negative feelings, because, you know, quote unquote negative, but like the I feel like it actually leads towards a lot more enjoyment of life in the long run, for sure. So go ahead, Jemery.
All right. Oh, let me lower my hand before I forget. Boom. Okay. Renee. Okay. This is okay. Okay. Trying to think of an analogy, right? I'll often use the analogy of like this stuff that you're uncovering, these roots that you're finding of social conditioning are not like carrots that you pull up one at a time. And you have this whole field of carrots that you have to pull up. They're more like raspberries, or they're rhizomes, where you pull up one and it's connected to like a whole bunch of others, and like one like yank and you've got half the field pulled up. Like that's more what this is. And you are just learning how to identify them right now. And so you're getting really good at seeing these roots. You're getting really good at that. And that's really encouraging, right? But what we end up doing is we use that as a weapon against ourselves, of like, I'm getting really good at identifying this, so I'm going to beat myself up because there's a whole bunch of shit I have to do now, right? And then we disempower ourselves and it becomes this overwhelming, huge thing to do. And we do the fun, like ADHD thing of like, I'm going to doom pile that and just fucking not do it. Right. You don't have to fall into that trap. Right. Because you're not, all you need to do is focus on the structure. That's what foundations is to create a structure to focus your attention. How does this particular concept apply to my lived experience right now? And that's going to uncover a lot of shit. That's how foundations is designed, is so that it uncovers a lot of shit and a lot of the major topics, these big rhizomes, right? And you can go through it many years and still be pulling up little baby roots of things, right? But you get really good at it. And you get to the point where it's like, man, it's been a long time since I've gotten one of those really good, satisfying, fucking like long Yankee ones, right? You're gonna get to the point where you're gonna miss like this, where it's just like there's so much to choose from, and anything, you can't choose wrong. You could choose anything that you want to work on and just do it. That is what a practice is. A practice is identifying something that needs attention, giving it the attention, setting up something that gives it that attention, and then adjusting accordingly, right? Adjusting as you get new information. That's all it is.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
like, that's just making me think of something too. I think a lot of the things I've been putting my attention towards have been things that I am hoping will benefit other people, you know? So
Knock it off.
I know it's giving me so I know it's giving me
Just
so much.
fucking stop.
It's giving me so much, that I need to ponder, and it is kind of one of those things where you go a little while and then just little parts of it start clicking and you're like, oh, now I know, now I understand. So I appreciate everybody so much, and I didn't mean to make this about me, but I hope it's helpful to other people too. But yeah, it's I'm gonna let Jen Marie talk.
Okay. So it's interesting that this is coming up because it came up for me earlier too, in a conversation, is your capacity to sincerely hold that space for other people's healing is a direct reflection of your capacity to hold that space for yourself. And so if you don't do that work, you're not really like you're limited on where you can. Do you see that? Right? That's one of the reasons why this like internal work is so important. Because it is these paths that you are creating that are what is going to like be the core of your work in helping others, right? Because we can only share from our own perspective. And if we haven't actually done that work, then like we're not actually like, does that make sense? But you're doing that work. And this is another thing that's coming up a lot because I'm experiencing this big catalyst, like big change stuff, right? If in my brain, my giftings are in the big picture stuff, that real scaled out stuff, right? There are times when that's not good medicine, right? Me scaling out right now and looking at all that, that's not good medicine for me right now, right? I need to focus and zone in and be very present. And that is the best medicine for me, because if I scale out, I get overwhelmed and my system gets overstimulated and I start shutting down, right? That is being a good advocate for your system in giving your brain like guidance as far as like how much we're going to open this up and what is the best thing for my whole system right now, right? And that's when you do something like shadow work, this kind of stuff where it's like, man, the more I look, the more I see, it's really overwhelming. That's zoom in time. If your system is saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated, allow it that space, focus only on like one thing at a time. You're going to eventually get to it all. It's all going to come up. It can't help it. It's effervescent. It floats to the top. So you're not going to like, again, you can't choose wrong and you're not going to miss it, like miss out on it. Okay. Ta-da. I'm done. Go ahead, Ezra.
When you were saying that, I kept on getting this image of like a screen like in a video game that zoomed out and it has all this detail and stuff, and how much like power that you would need to like have that constantly in that mode, and how like when you zoom in, you aren't using as much power, because I'm also like somebody that zooms out quite a lot. That's my, I feel like my natural state of being. I had a lot of practice with it when I was young and very dissociated, and so the focus, like I even did like a writing thing called the focus wheel and things like that. Focus has been a big thing for me, especially over the last like 6 months, year. And I wanted to say, Renee, like you're allowed to make it about you, because when you do, I know that's a little uncomfortable, like as a like spotlight type of situation, but when you do that sincerely, like when you do that willingly, right? Like, so I'm not saying you have to by any means, but when you do that, it also shows us things about ourselves. So it's not only about you, but that's what you are allowed to do to show others themselves. So it is actually helpful to, the group, because we're all, the we're all one. So it's, we obviously have our differences and things that make us distinct, but I think all of us can see a part of ourselves in whatever story is told. So you're allowed to make it about you for as much as you want. So what was coming up for me too, as like when I was thinking about the zoom out situation, I think it's very common for people to feel shame when they start having awareness of a pattern they've been in. That is, I think, honestly, that is a step. Like it becomes a shorter step when you get used to it. But like the conditioning or like the program, like once you do the self-awareness practices and you meditate and you do all the rituals you start to zoom out from that, and you start to go, oh, I can see a little pattern that I'm in, a little loop that I'm just going around in. But then at first, you usually can't do anything about it. So you're just observing. Like the physical step is later. And so you're just like, wait, I can see the pattern. Why am I not doing anything differently? There must be something wrong with me if I'm still doing the thing, even though I know I'm doing the thing. And that little bit of shame there, like it's just important not to get stuck in it, to feel it, because we're supposed to feel things. Unfortunately, we can't get out of that. That's the whole physical incarnation thing. We're here to feel it, and then go. In fact, I think feeling the shame is necessary to get into the movement of it, like of actually doing the physical thing that breaks you out of that programming loop. So, yeah, yes.
Or you just like toss it back and forth. Okay. So so another thing about that shame that comes up, right? Because of our social conditioning that, getting stuck in cycles is wrong and bad, right? So there's that shame. There's something wrong with me, right? You will feel the emotion that was used to create that neural pathway. You will feel that when that is poked at. And so when we start to look at our emotions as like what we're feeling, as like messengers that are telling us about that neural pathway that was created when you were like a kid or whatever, that guilt or shame thing or whatever, wherever that comes from, your emotion and you as the advocate for your system choosing to show up for that emotion and to validate that emotion and to like be present with that, that is what helps in that process of relaying that and changing your relationship with whatever that emotion is hooked to. Does that make sense? Right? And so that's one of the reasons why your relationship with your emotions is the first thing we talk about when you get into foundations. That is the first thing. Like let's talk about these emotions as something we all experience, And it was like one of the first things that we were taught to control. It was one of the first things that was used to control us. Like there's so much that is about our relationship with our emotions. It brings up a lot. They're powerful messengers, right? So there. Ta-da!
I just wanted to say I put it in the chat too, but that's because that loop was created protectively to keep you from feeling that emotion. So when that loop feels threatened, the feeling will come back. And in fact, when the loop is broken, you will feel like a big rush of that feeling and usually have a big, emotional like cry or scream or what. I've been actually doing a lot of vocal release lately, and that has been crazy for me. Like doing like screaming and singing and vocal play and stuff like that. And it is, I think there's a lot that is trapped in our voices that we were not allowed, like kind of because of the screaming baby thing that Karen was talking about. Like we were, shut up from a very young age. And that's, like that made sense because our parents were overwhelmed. But now we can like go back and, get tune into that baby that still like wasn't allowed to cry and find space to cry and scream and all that stuff. So yeah, that felt very important to say. Gosh, I think there was something else, but I will let it go. Oh, I watched the Inside Out movie, the second one. Like I don't know if anyone's watched Inside Out, but it's about this, right? Like it's honestly extremely important. Like I like feel like I could watch like I could just like do like a whole class on Inside Out. And the second one like, goes into like more complex emotions. The first one is more like primary emotions. But I've been dealing with my anger the last few months, and then recently just disgust came up for me. And and disgust is, it was just so funny because I was like, oh no, disgust is another mean emotion. I'm not allowed to feel that. And so like I've just been, I've been yanking at those roots. And that it's just such a powerful movie as far as emotions go. So it's very cute and well done. Go ahead, Karen.
I haven't seen the second one yet, but the first one is something that's just in my reels that, or in my index that comes up every once in a while when I'm in my feels, that and the Princess Bride. So, among others, but that is one that it's like when I'm in my feels to get out of it, to remind us that it's like it is just the emotions of it. That's only, we are not our emotions. We are not, they are only the experience that we're going through. And even after all the work you do, and you think that you're riding on top of the world and everything, remember it's a wheel, and the wheel goes round and round, and it gives you new lessons. So just when you think you're done, you're never done. So what has helped me, it's like I just turned 54 last week, and having younger friends. I had a wonderful meeting with Ezra and Ocean earlier in this week, and we hung out. Having younger friends that ask why, because we weren't allowed to ask why, little lady, young ma'am, go help your mother. You don't need to ask why you can't have the car, why your brother gets to do all those things. We weren't allowed to ask. And my younger friends are asking all these questions. Why do I have to be? I mean, all the way from why do I have to act this way? Why do I have to learn cursive? And why, because I was born with this body part, do I feel like I have to act this way because society question fucking everything. and has helped me so much in deconstructing. You know, I didn't know what DWB or white privilege was till I was almost 30. Our kids know now, hopefully. I feel pretty safe in saying a couple of the mamas that I know in here, have made their children aware of the privilege that they have based on skin tones and stuff like that, stuff that wasn't taught primarily in largely white presenting families. So a lot deconstructing all of it, having this group here is just amazing for that. And being able to ask why, and let me see what else I wrote down. Oh, and it's like dieting. It took me 54 years and a whole lot of my mother and father telling me it's this way, it's that way, and it should be. I'm not gonna like go back to a size 8 tomorrow. It took a lot of cheeseburgers to get to the size that I am. It took a lot of the subconscious shit that I'm not even aware of until I get triggered by something somebody does. It was like, oh, that's some program. I need to feel into why that bothers me when people don't renew their driver's license on time. Is that a rule thing or whatever it may be? All those different. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling now, but it took a lot of programming and a lot of time that they put into you. It's not going to happen overnight. Give yourself grace, and it's not all about you, love. Stop being selfish. It's all about all of us. We are all connected, 1111, and we needed to hear these messages this morning as well. To be kind and to ourselves as we grow through this process and we learn and we heal. That's all I got. Anybody else want to take it? Bueller?
Want to talk about veiling, guys? Whoa! Baxter almost fell off my lap. That was fun. At the same time, I must have scared him when I started talking or whatever. So, every year from the autumnal equinox to the spring equinox, I veil, which is just like covering the top of my head is basically what I'm doing. And the purpose for me covering the top of my head is, for one, I feel more secure during those times of the month when I have something on top of my head, right? That just for physical sensory experience. But also because it signifies to me that I'm in an introspective place in my experience. And so it's that boundary of I am allowed this introspective time. I am allowed to turn inward, right? And I am allowed to keep parts of my self covered, right? And that my internal experience is mine to share just as much as any other like whatever is mine to share. So that's what the like veiling process is. And it's my practice that every year I try to do it better. Like every year when last year I wore beanies, like different beanies all year. And most of them were ones that like people either gifted to me or like made for me. And so I'm still trying to like feel into what I want to do for this year for veiling, because I'm also in this process of uh really looking at my relationship with my hair and like letting it grow out and engaging with my hair as if my hair is the bard of my system, like the storyteller. My hair is what like literally my hair, you can see what I ate last, 6 months ago through my hair, right? But I also, like, all of my life, I was taught to hate my hair in some way. And so, like, it's too thin, it curls in the wrong way, it, like, is the wrong color, or it's like it just doesn't fit in some way. And so I have always, or for like I've always done something with my hair, whether that is like heat styling or adding bits and pieces to it or changing the color and everything. And now I feel like I'm uh, in this place where I don't know, I'm like trying to deepen my relationship with my hair and try to do what is healthy for my hair, what is the most supportive for my hair. I have a ritual that I do that, like, massages my scalp every night to encourage, like, that storytelling. And so, like, I've been doing that for several years, and now I'm growing my hair out, right? And so I am, like, going back and forth on what do I want to actually do. And there's a part of me that wants to, like, cover all of my hair over the winter time. And that comes to from like my Jewish roots. Like, it is very common for, like, married women to wear, like, wigs and hair pieces and things and completely cover their hair. And that has been, like, highlighted for like the last few months of, like, like, what if I chose a, like, hair piece or wig of some sort to wear all winter long as my, like, veil to keep my hair growth, like, private and sacred. And like, so that's kind of what I'm playing with. And also to try and, like, take that a step further, and possibly I'm thinking about making a sigil of some sort that is a specific dialed in prayer, like a blessing for my inward turn, and stitch it into the top of the wig, like the where it sits, like right on the top of my head. I'm also thinking of that too. Uh, so yeah, I'm totally open to weigh-ins and questions and everything. I think it's a fun conversation to have. And this whole, like, being unapologetic about my inward turn also, because a lot of people experience my inward turn as rejection, or that I am pulling away from them, which is very interesting. And I experienced a lot of that, like, last year it came to my attention. And so this year I was like, okay, I'm going to announce my inward turn and be more, like, outwardly expressive about it, so that there's less of a likelihood of it being misinterpreted as a, like, pulling away. So yeah, okay, go Stephanie. Go Stephanie. Go Stephanie.
Thank you for bringing this up. I was literally just the other day thinking, oh, it's about that season. I would like to know more about it, because last Sunday I went with my family to the New York State Fair, which is it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of people and a lot of dirt and just food and stimulation and all kinds of stuff. And so I consciously chose to cover my head that day to go to the fair and be aware if I felt, any change in my experience, like being in a crowd like that, like, I would typically burn out pretty fast. And when I tell you, It was the nicest time I've ever had at the fair, like ever, right? And it's right here in town. It's not far. I've been a million times. There's concerts 2 times a day. There's always something to go for. And I did not burn out. I did not get overwhelmed. And there was a few times where I just kind of sat in a really relaxed moment and was like, like it felt like a hug. Like it felt like a hug on my head. It was like a head hug, and it felt so good. So I would like to incorporate that more into my practice. In fact, today, my daughter got up for senior sunrise, so I've been up since like 4:30 to get her to the school for that, and because of that, felt like I didn't have a whole lot left for my day. And I was like, you know what? We're doing this. We'll get through the day like that because I have SAS today and because we have guild tonight. And I wanted to be able to conserve a little bit of, my energy and not completely burn out. So I love that you brought this up. Thank you. I've been wondering, I like to learn about how you do it every year because I know that last year you had mentioned you were wearing things from other people. And I find that playing with it a little bit in different situations has really been eye-opening for me. So, Ezra, go ahead.
I love this topic. Also, I realized I didn't mute myself, so sorry if you heard anything on this side. But yeah, I love I think most of us as witches do, like, love the season we're about to go into. I experience a lot of energy on inward turns. I'm like a night person. I feel like I spent most of my early years very inward, and I actually have historically struggled more on the outward side of the year. I also live in Florida, and so the summer months are actually more like winter months somewhere else, in that we can't really go outside very much, or at least I can't. I'm very heat sensitive and like sun sensitive. And so it feels like I wake up this time of the year, like internally. I think I was a lot more conscious of myself this summer, but it was still like a very I don't even know how to describe it exactly, but it's a very loud time for me. And so I have to be very careful about my sensory overload during summertime. And when things get quiet and like, I just heard like dead in my head. They're not really dead, but like, it's so peaceful to me. And I can also dress the way that I want to, because summertime here is just like as little clothing with as you can possibly get away with, like that kind of thing, which isn't like my preferred aesthetic generally. And so I feel like now I have like so much room to play once it starts getting cooler. I can go on walks outside. I can, wear long sleeves or layers or a beanie. I got this beanie last fall. And I've also been thinking a lot of, I think it was Ocean that asked in the courtyard or something, like, what are you doing to like, for like the season change, like the change of seasons and stuff. And my first thought was to, dress specifically for the season, which in color, as well as, just wearing jackets and stuff, because I also am a jacket person when when the weather allows me to be. And so it just feels like I finally can like actually have access to my wardrobe. And I also bought a few wigs, because I was historically like a wig person when I was actually when I was 16 years old. And that 16-year-old self has been coming up a lot lately for me. So I've been like spending time with that more. But I actually wore wigs to school, and now I am doing it. I got a bunch of different kinds of wigs because I feel like I'm a shifting type of person. And so I'm really excited to create outfits that for those specific like characters that I can dress up as. And I also feel like it's a hug on my head. It feels like there's like a little friend up there. I yeah, like I don't know if any of you have had like snakes or anything. But like I used to at parties, there was a party or there was a person who used to have parties when I was in my early 20s, and it was too many people for me. And so I would like she would just hand me her snake, and I would just wear the snake around like the party. And I was like, that was it was such so anchoring, and it would like hug me around the shoulders or in my hair or whatever. And that's what it feels like. Like there's just like a little creature up there hugging my head, being like, I got you. We share the sensory load together, like that kind of thing. So yeah, I really enjoy that. And I'm looking at other ways like to incorporate the seasonal aspect into my life, like activities and food, and like food being seasonal, and seeing what comes up again. Like an interesting part of TikTok is that you get to see that like 1 year ago today type of thing. And I think and Facebook does that too to an extent. But I don't post on Facebook that much, so it's more TikTok for me. And when it comes back around, I'll be like, oh wow, I was just thinking about that yesterday, and it turns out this is like at the time of year that thought comes up, which is interesting. So I've been kind of paying more attention to that as well. So yeah. Oh, I also other than just the wigs, I also noticed that pretty much every 6 months I have the urge to change my hair. And so now I'm doing that. Like before, I would be like, I would just do it intuitively. Like I would be like, oh, I want to change my hair for a few months. And then one day I would wake up and be like, today's the day. I'm gonna change my hair. And now I am realizing the pattern of that and able to kind of like see and kind of I don't know when exactly I'm going to do it this time, but I can tell that it's coming up. And there's like a switch that happens in my system and my aesthetic, like probably right as we're going into winter. But yeah, so that's fun. Excited to hear about anybody else's like autumn plans because it's going to be so cool. This like I know we're doing convergence stuff, but we're also doing tons of like Zoom like things coming up during the autumn. Like it's launching for sure.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I actually had this week off of work, and I decided that we used to have an above ground pool that we got rid of in the spring. And of course, it's the perfect place now for a fire pit. So I took the week off of work, and I've literally been slinging stones. And my husband and I had a funny conversation because he thought I wanted this fire pit for the summer. And I was like, that makes zero sense to me at all for summer nights, right? But I wanted it for fall, and I feel this real like need to get it done. This like that I do this every fall. I do something major to the house or to the outside. I don't know what that trigger is for me, but it's that getting ready, that nesting that I get. And so I've been I've been doing things like to make this fire pit like a really intentional, special fall place for me, you know? If my husband flips over some of the stones, he'll find all kinds of things, runes and stuff like that. I set it up directionally, you know, with certain edges of the edge of the patio. Um, and so I'm trying to think of more ways to make it a seasonal thing. One of these days I'll get to ask Maria. I know that she opens her fireplace, I believe, every fall with a ritual. Um, and so I can do that with my fireplace and my fire pit as well. And I have a the ritual candle starter, which I think will probably begin my first fire in that. So I think what I'm working on this fall is to have like a opening of my outdoor fall space, if you will, you know, and I haven't quite figured out how to do it all, but that's what I've been going in that direction for the fall. So we'll see where that takes me. Stephanie, go ahead.
I was just gonna follow up on what Ezra was saying and what we were talking about in the app about the bracelets and the wraps and how nice going into the fall is because I wear all the scarves and then I have leg warmers and then those sweaters with like I don't know, it's kind of like a glove that it just feels like the material helps contain the body. Like my body feels so electric and sparkly and spirited and not well contained and gravitatized to the earth, that more like mummy wrapping, bundling things to like help weigh it down into the earth helps. And so in the summertime when you're running around in shorts and a bikini, like it's all just like fluttering off into the nether worlds. And so winter it's helpful to like have a heavier anchor on the balloon so that I'm not just like floating out into the vast clouds. So I'm super glad to get my winter clothes back out into the closet. And yeah, I hate summer in that reason. I mean, I like to run around naked, but it feels like I have dissipated into just a mist of non-existence. And that's tricky to exist in. And with the hair stuff, I cut my hair last summer and it like created this huge psychic something. And I've read that Native Americans cut their braids, I think, when there's a grief period. And I do really believe that hair and grief and spirit, and there's a lot of woo-woo juju magic in that. And so I'm kind of torn now on growing it out, but also cutting to like, I don't know. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do like a halvesies and cut half of it and leave half of it to grow really long, but also maybe completely shave half of it to go full blown. My plan now in my mundane world is to kind of jump off into the woo and kind of fully come out of the closet in my real world life. And so I don't know. I don't know. Big steps in that arena, but I think having a hairstyle to go with that would be a big step and maybe appropriate. Roxanne, go ahead.
Oh, wow. Okay. So much to say. So I'm going to just arrange my thoughts for a second. So first, hair. Because I just did get my hair done, I totally I feel more myself than I ever have in a really, really long time. And it is just amazing. I had to put a pause on dyeing it a few years ago because I was going into a job that it was not allowed, basically. And then since then, life has been lifing. So definitely, I feel more myself. And it's fantastic. I love it. I first tried veiling last winter, especially as I was starting to really address my relationship with cold weather. Because I had moved back to somewhere that gets cold and snow and everything else. So um, it was a really interesting practice for me. And the I actually had crocheted the ones that the different beanies I had worn and stuff as part of that practice. So I'll be getting those back out as I dive a little bit deeper into this. And each year since I have like said yes to my practice and say yes to being a witch, I have had that deeper connection with the earth and the seasons, like very deep, like connection. And I always find it funny, Ezra, when you talk about how you're so opposite in this time of year of having more of that energy and stuff. I find it so fascinating. And so as I'm like diving in this year to really connecting even deeper into this transition from summer to fall and then into the winter, it is definitely going to be a lot of like reflecting going on and really journaling and seeing what comes through and asking more people like, so what are you experiencing? How does this feel for you? And stuff like that as I'm diving deeper into this, because there is so much connected to our practices, our magical practices, to our body, and that connection with the seasons. No matter where we are on this world, like even for like other parts of the world where they don't get those like full force seasons, there still is that change, and having that, taking that time to really sit with that change that the earth is going through wherever you are. So definitely like with on the other side of the world and they're going into summer and everything else. One day I definitely want to do that flip of being like in winter, but going somewhere where it is summer and really connecting to see what that feels like. See if, because of where I've called home physically, location wise, is going to really still like have that deep connection so that when I visit somewhere else that's on a completely different season, whether that connection is going to like shift or if it's going to stay with where my physical location of home is. So that is something that I'm definitely plan on doing in the future, because I do find this practice like very fascinating of how we deeply connect with the seasons and the earth. So yeah, that's what's coming up for me right now. So yeah, I'll hand it off to Renee now.
Well, I was gonna say our autumn is my favorite season, but it's this long. It's like so tiny. It's better now that I'm in southern Alaska than when I was in Fairbanks when it was like 4 days long. But I love sweater weather. Like this is like I took the dogs for a walk this morning and Rich said, how's the weather out there? And I said, perfect. It's like a perfect day. It's like a sweater day and the sun's not beating on me. But Roxanne, I did notice your hair and it gave me a little excited thrill. I was so happy to see it. And I think Jen Marie will concur. Like Alaska is a colored hair place. Like everybody has colored hair here. My mom and I joke like when I was 14, I'm a purple person. Like when I was 14 and had purple hair, old ladies would like, oh, scoff at me and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm a 53-year-old person with colored hair and old ladies ask me how to dye their hair purple, you know? So it's like, it feels like a win in the world, you know? Like I have a love-hate relationship with hearing The Cure play in Fred Meyer's when I'm buying groceries, you know? Like I kind of feel like again, that's a little win. It's like, you know, the nerds get to pick the store music now, so we get to listen to good stuff. But um yeah, hair, I mean, it's so for some of us, I mean, it's so tied to our personalities and just our way of expressing ourselves. And yeah, it's interesting. It's I love hair and I actually love wigs too. And I had at one time like a lot of kind of crazy colored wigs, but wigs are one of those things that gets borrowed and never gets given back to you, I've noticed. But I used to just like I like a mood wig. Like if I'm just like it's just kind of like the same thing as cosmetics or whatever. It's like sometimes you're just in a mood to wear like like I had like a Marge Simpson wig and I used to just like to wear it when I wash dishes and stuff. And that one got stolen really fast. Um but yeah, hair is like, and I always tell people like they think it's brave somehow to like color your hair, where to me it just feels like this is the hair I should have been born with. And so when people are like they're like, oh, I wish I could do that, just I always say you can. Like it's like a $7 bottle of hair dye like at, you know, Fred Meyer's, like if you want to do it yourself. Like it's the same thing with travel. When people say like, oh, I wish I could visit this place or that place, it's just like it's just a plane ticket away, you know. But yeah, hair is super fun. So, um, Ezra.
I actually love that we're having this talk about hair. My mom was a hairdresser before she went back to school to be a special education teacher. And so growing up, I was a lot like pretty much I've been dyeing my hair you know, fun colors since I was like 12, and because she would do it. And it's I love doing fun, funky things to hair. And during this conversation, and I do it for like a lot of my friends and stuff too. I actually just met one of my partner Robin's. Sorry, I feel like I need to explain that, but my partner's name is Robin now. For anybody who has heard a different name, and so we met one of Robin's coworkers, and so I'm going to be doing her hair now for her, because I do Robin's hair, and so they like so he's like a walking advertisement for me, but I love doing that kind of stuff, and I have always done it for myself ever since my mom stopped doing it for me when I got to an adult and like moved to be an adult and moved away. And it's there this quote from the show Fleabag keeps coming up. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that show. It's really, really good. And there's a point where they think a hairdresser has done them wrong, like given some one of the characters a bad haircut, and she just goes in there and he's just like, it's just a haircut, and she's like, just a haircut. Hair is everything. Everything else in society is created to distract from how much hair matters. Like it was just like such a cute little like monologue. And I think about it a lot actually, whenever anybody is kind of downplaying like, you know, having a bad haircut and feeling really bad about it, or whatever, or somebody, you know, losing their hair or anything like that. And so it's just funny to me. It feels so it is such like an important thing. And I often like I think that's why it took me so long to cut my hair short. Like I used to be the long hair person when I was a kid, and now I don't think I can go back. But I often want to have long hair, but I don't want to have middle stage hair. And so I'm like, okay, well then I have to be a wig person apparently. And that's okay. So I'm like a costume person and everything too. So that works. Renee, okay, nope, not Renee. Got it. Yeah, let's see. I think I'm done. So we can have a We can have a silence for a little bit until the next person decides. Renee, you did come.
I actually have a little change of subject, but I thought it might be of interest. I was listening to a podcast yesterday um, about mediums, and they were the people that were hosting the podcast. They just had nothing good to say. Like they just were just ridiculing and ripping and all that stuff. And I just instead of feeling like angry or anything, I was just like, it was very dull. Like it's just very dull to listen to people complain and just have no like wonder in their lives at all. And I just was like, you know what, like I'm not even angry, I just feel sorry for these people. Like I feel sorry for them. And like just that it's like a drone now of when people are not willing to put any effort into understanding or experiencing different things. And I was listening to it because I kind of like to get like all perspectives on things, but I've kind of got to the point where I'm very tired of critics and that all they do is tear stuff down, and they don't seem to enjoy anything. But yeah, it was interesting. I was just like, this is so boring. It's so boring. So anyway, I had that experience yesterday. So I thought I would share it because it is funny because most like podcasts or whatever you listen to, there's a lot of skeptics and there's not a lot of people that are really balanced about just like even if something they don't believe it, they don't dismiss it. So it's hard to find people like that. But there's a couple I'm kind of obsessed right now called Greg and Dana Newkirk, and they have a haunted objects museum. And another reason I like them so much is people send them haunted objects, and they're kind of like 90% of the objects they get, they think they're like the person might be haunted, but not the object. So it's and then they take this on tour. It's really interesting. But yeah, but I love listening to them because any kind of anything goes, and they do a lot of like experiments with stuff too. Like they just did one with like pyramid power, and it was really funny because they were totally expecting things not to work, and then they did work. So it's kind of cute. Anyway, Tilda's gonna have something to say because she's jealous. So does anybody have their hand up? No? Okay, I'm gonna mute. Oh, Ezra, sorry.
Yeah. No, I like this topic because I used to be that kind of person that would have been on that podcast, like especially like in my early 20s, and I just like had a group of friends that was just, wonderless and basically just and felt smart by putting everybody else down because they didn't understand something. And so it just felt like important to say they're bored too. Like they're bored and miserable as well. And they kind of just, it feels like they're really because they're so bored and they think and miserable, and they think that's the right way to be, that they're really mad at people who aren't that way. And that's, that was kind of like my experience. It was pretty much me deciding, oh, wow, I could actually decide to wonder about things instead of cutting them down, and deciding that I was only going to listen to, a very specific group of people on what was real or not, essentially. And a big part of that was actually coming out as trans and gender fluid, because I remember going, in my head, I was doing that to myself, being like, you can't prove that this is something, like, you can't, like, there's no like biological like test, and even if there was, it wouldn't matter, like that kind of thing. And so how do I convince somebody else that this is my life experience? And then once I started going into that and then accepting that it, because I experience it, is actually an answer, um, then I started going, oh wow, what are all these other people that I haven't been believing about their life experiences? People who see ghosts and that and who have mediumship powers, and like, it literally opened like my entire world up to saying, oh, these people who I love that I haven't been believing, like, why, what's the point of that, really? And especially when it's making me miserable, right? And so that changed so much of my perspective on everything, that it led me like my gender, like dysphoria, and the journey that I went from there actually made me believe in magic, because I was able to uh, do shadow work on on why I had decided that these things could categorically not be true. And now I'm like a much happier, more engaged, interested in life person. And but I still have, like, old friends that are kind of stuck in that way of being, because they think they think that to be smart is to be miserable, and they would rather be whatever their definition of smart is than be happy in life. And they don't realize the like corner they've put themselves into. um and it made me think about, I've had a few different magical friends too, and I've felt this way myself, where it's like, oh, I got to convince people that this is real. Like, I've got to convince them, because you can see that it's making them miserable and boring to be around and critical and just like honestly hurtful in a lot of ways too. And that's the that's what it really made me think of, is that it's just they're projecting like their own like misery on a podcast, and then like sharing it with people because they kind of need to be validated in their experience of being so miserable, because they're so smart that they can't possibly believe in anything without physical evidence. And it's so funny because now, like, now that I know that such a small portion of the universe is actually physical, it's just like they're only interacting with 1% of everything. And so, of course, that would make you a little bored if you only had access to 1% of all that existed. So, yeah, Renee.
So oops, am I messing stuff up? Okay, I'll just wait on that. So I had a migraine yesterday, and a lot of people have migraines. Like, you will have almost mystical experiences sometimes, because sometimes you see auras, sometimes you smell things that aren't there, like um just super weird stuff can happen, and it's really scary. But it's also okay, I'm gonna tie this into something that makes sense. But so again, when I was listening to Greg and Dana Newkirk, they were telling a story about how they were doing they got hired to be part of like a ghost tour, and at one point in the tour they were in this room, and Dana could smell this really rank smell, and so could this other woman. And then so when they left that room, they, because they both were like they could see each other making the face, like, but nobody else smelled it. And so they said, we would have just written that off, except that the lady came up to us and said when she was a child, she'd had an illness or something, where she had completely lost her sense of smell. And she forgot that she lost her sense of smell when she smelled this overwhelmingly bad smell. And so they were like, so basically what Dana said, she goes, so when people tell me magic's all in my head, I go, yeah, it is. It is all in my head, you know? And it's kind of the same thing, I think, with like the migraines, right? Like you are experiencing something that seems very physical and real, but you're the only one experiencing it and it is all in your head. So I like that idea, um moving forward in magic, that you don't have to prove anything. People don't have to see it. Like, and that just somehow, what Ezra was saying made me say this. So I don't know if that seems related at all to you, Ezra, because it does to me, but it's just kind of, yeah, like there's people that need to feel superior and they do that by running other people down. But also, um yeah, like we all are probably having crazy magical things happen all the time, and we're the only ones experiencing it. um and it's totally legit. So I'm really into just reading a lot about people that are in like super active in the paranormal community right now, because they have so many stories like that, that to me is really validating and interesting. And I would recommend them to anyone that is interested in kind of like paranormal stuff too, because they're ghost hunters that they call themselves professional weirdos. And they call like some of the other ghost hunters like the ghost bros, and I appreciate that because they're always trying to fight with ghosts, you know. And the new Kirks are not, they're like more connection based, right? Like they're not trying to fight the ghosts. So Stephanie.
So I too have migraines. I think maybe someday in the app we should do a poll to see like how many weird problems we all share. So I have a few different kinds of weird headache problems and whatever diagnoses. But about a year ago, I think, maybe 2 years ago, right before my birthday, I started having these very strange symptoms of dizziness and like ringing in my ears and not being able to like remember my work phone number and not being able to read, not being able to see straight. And I thought I was having strokes. So I went and got an MRI, and it turns out it's another kind of migraine. And I already have the ocular migraines, and I have cluster headaches and a whole bunch of different, like my brain's just not right. Turns out the neurologist says that these are vestibular migraines, which are migraines that don't hurt. They just give you all those other weird auras and the da 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 da. And so he put me on a preventative so that that doesn't happen. And it took all the stuff away. And that stuff is very distracting when you're trying to work and you like can't walk straight or you get super dizzy or whatever. But I've come to a place to think like, is it a migraine? You know, like, is it a like problematic disease disorder thing that needs to be treated, or is this just like ascension symptoms or woo-woo magic ghost smelly stuff that I'm like connecting into different realms? And do I need to be on a preventative to make this stop? I don't know. You know, it doesn't hurt. I don't know. So I'm considering getting off the meds for a trial to see what happens. Obviously, I know nobody can give me medical advice, but if anybody wants to weigh in, you're more than welcome to. Ezra.
I love this. Actually, recently I asked a friend, they had a headache while I was talking to them, and I was like, and it came to me to ask some questions I had long time ago watched a YouTube video about how to like lessen the pain of a headache. And one of them was like, where is it? What shape is it? What color is it? And then I also felt the need to ask, what does it sound like? And basically the answer was right here. And it's like a blue star, and it sounds like ethereal, like music, right? And I was like, to me, that's like that it gave me a new perspective on headaches when I asked this question, because what you were saying, like, what is a migraine? Migraine is the word that science gave to a particular set of symptoms, right? And what we may be experiencing as spiritual people may be on the radar in the physical world as a migraine, right? And so, I think a lot of things are like this, but that's when you're looking at it from a purely physical world perspective, it's going to look one way. And I would even say, I've started to question, like, when I'm feeling pain, like in my physical body, what is that actually doing? Like, pain kind of feels like almost like a shortcut word. And so I've been inquiring into my body, what is actually happening there? Like, what is the dull ache? What's, like, these questions, like, what's the shape? What's the sound? What's the color? I think that they're good data for establishing what your physical body might be trying to tell you, that a scientist or a doctor that's looking from the outside is not going to ever be able to tell you personally. And so, and from, I really love science, but I think that it's so limited, and it frustrates me when it doesn't realize how limited it is. Like, because that's, like, to know your own bias is how you get out of bias, and so, at least a little bit, like, and you always know you hold it there. And I feel like most of the science that I see is coming from the just perspective of, this is the only way to look at these these disorders, or diseases, or phenomenon, or whatever we want to call them, symptoms. And I think that there's actually probably a lot of, like, from my perspective, I do think there might be ascension kind of magical reasoning behind why we are experiencing physical things that make it hard to work. Like, the only reason we wouldn't want to experience it is because it would be hard to work at our job. Like, and it's the current system of medical care is to do whatever it takes to give you whatever medication or whatever surgery to make you go back to work, right? And so when I think about it in that perspective, it gives me just like a whole different view on everything that's happening to me physically. So I've always felt kind of resistant to a lot of medication, like in a gut instinct way. And I don't want to say anything like it is necessary for some people and in some circumstances. So I don't want to, like, poo-poo on medication overall. But I do think that it's kind of like, are we trying to shut up the baby with the screaming baby with the medication, or are we trying to come to a stasis point so that we can, like, unpack what the screaming is actually about, that kind of thing. So, Demery.
Yup. It's so important for us to remember that, oops, getting all excited about this, that these, like, diagnoses and things like that it's just a way to, like, it's pathologizing our experience. Like, it just helps us kind of understand how to support our system better. And if we look at it like it's okay, let me step back a second. We take medication when our bodies are struggling with the human experience for some reason, right? And we turn to medication and support when our bodies need that. And your relationship with your medical care team is really important. That's really important. It's a part of being a good advocate for your system, right? Because your physical body is a part of that. and choosing or trying at least to find a medical care team that listens and understands you and all those things is an important part of our journeys, because the vast majority of magical practitioners that I have known in the 35 years I've been navigating underground witchcraft communities are considered disabled through the lens of capitalism and the patriarchy, because of how we experience our physical life. Like, we can't function at the pace of the big cappy pappy, at least not for it's not sustainable. We do it for like spurts, and then we burn out, and then we come back, and then we burn out, and then we come back, and then we burn out. And that's like, we're supposed to be okay with that, right? But what I've, as a person that, learned that I'm epileptic, my body's epileptic this year. And I've had migraines my whole life, and all of these things. I even had spinal meningitis when I was a teenager that kind of opens even more of the headachy kind of stuff to it. And so my relationship with headaches has been like extensive over my lived experience. And what I've learned is that data collection is really important, and there's a lot of different reasons that our bodies could experience a headache, right? Water, like how many of us actually drink enough water? A lot of the headaches that I was experiencing in my 20s were hydration related, but I was so like stubborn about it, I wasn't like doing that. If all of your physical needs are met and you are still having headaches and still experiencing that, then your body's trying to tell you something, and it needs more attention and more data collection. And one of our like knee-jerk responses or reactions to pain is withdrawal. We try to pull away, pull out of it, and not experience that. And what I have found with especially like headaches and like chronic physical pain is that what we end up doing, or what I end up doing, is I am in such resistance to actually experiencing the pain that it's creating more pain, because all my muscles are like all clenched up trying to get away from it. And so I started doing a practice with headaches, specifically of that breathing and then relaxing on my exhale, breathing to find where the pain is, and like giving it that breath, relaxing on the exhale. What do I have muscles engaged right now that don't need to be engaged? Am I holding tension within me somewhere that doesn't need to be like have tension? That whole, like, it's to me, it's data collection and knowing how to support myself better, and knowing that a lot of times my headaches are like hormonally related. And so because I know that they're hormonally related, I create a practice that supports me through that time. I give space. Like, I give space for my headaches. My headaches are a way of like slowing my like whole system down to like lean into pauses sometimes, because I'm pushing at a hard pace. But I see my physical pain as that too, as a way of like not just reminding me that my physical experience needs my attention too. But that is a tether for me to remind myself that being incarnated is important, and paying attention to what my physical body is telling is equally as important as the work I'm doing behind the veil. And my physical body keeps me from going too far behind the veil and neglecting the needs of my physical experience too. So cultivating a relationship of gratitude for the physical pain that I experience, it keeps me like here and present, and allows me to show myself compassion in a way that I wouldn't be able to do if I didn't have to show myself compassion as regularly as I do, right? Go ahead, Ezra.
I think I just have my hand up. I think Roxanne, or I'm not.
All right, I'm just doing a time check for everybody as the mod. So we have about 4 minutes left. So go ahead, Petra.
Hello. I just wanted to say a piece as like one of the medically minded human thing, not medical advice, obviously. But I think two things just popped in when I was listening. One of the things is also like whoa, sorry, my brain's like, let me give you 7,000 thoughts at the same time. I'm like, that's too many. I can't talk and listen and interpret these things at the same time. So I'll just try and be really quick. So is medical systems are often not holistic in their approach. So that means that like oftentimes when we have things like vestibular migraines, for instance, it's like there are things like vestibular physiotherapy. There are like a broad range of medications. There are also like other things that it could be in making sure that your healthcare provider is ruling those things out is important. John Hopkins has like a really good, I just was like went online. I was going to copy the link, but then ran out of time. So John Hopkins, if you just like Google vestibular migraines, has like a good little like, here are the things, or Cleveland Clinic, Up to Date has good information, those kinds of places. I think the thing that I look at in terms of someone who both has experienced trauma from taking medications and also is trained as a healthcare provider and can see the utility and usefulness of modern medication as well, that I hold both of those truths, that I'm like, this stuff can be really harmful and dangerous, and it also can be really helpful and beneficial and supportive, is that ultimately those decisions have to be made between the person and their healthcare provider, and also like what is the functional impairment of the thing that's happening, and what capacity do you have to like wean off a medication if that's necessary and have your life potentially fucked up to figure it out. Like these are important like logistical questions, and I think that those always kind of need to be like looked at and de-shamed as well, because like we live under capitalism, like you do have to pay bills, so it's like and you're not like failing at your spiritual journey or failing to connect with your body or failing like by making sure that you have food to eat and a roof over your head and all the things. Like there is no perfect way to do this whole like life journey, unlearning, relearning thing. And the other piece of this that I wanted to bring up is that this is always a really cool place to drop the nugget, plant the seed of like somatic practitioners, and spending time with someone whose job is to get you to connect with your body, to listen to what your body's trying to tell you. And that doesn't mean you have to be off medication to do that either. And if you can sit with someone who is trained in like somatic experiencing or somatic practice in real time and be like, they can walk you through and be that co-regulator to help you connect with your system, that can also be another kind of avenue of like, hey, can I explore this? And the thing is also realizing that the urgency that we feel in like healing, figuring things out, that is also manufactured by capitalism and white supremacy culture. So it's like, there's time, you're not late, nothing is like too far gone. Like the piece that I think I've learned the most in the past year is that like I having a timetable is maybe just the silliest thing that I can do to myself. I need to just be like, whatever, I'm gonna just like one step, next step, whatever. It doesn't mean I don't have desires for the future, but it means that like holding plans with an open hand is probably the best thing, because oftentimes many things happen, and so I can't always like predict or decide, and building capacity in my nervous system for flexibility and adaptability is probably the thing that's going to save me the most. But it is 1 o'clock, so I will wrap it up. And yeah, if anyone, I don't know how, I'm still new to the app, so if anyone like has questions or is like, hey, like you said those things really fast, I have more, just I don't know, figure out how to at me in there and I get notifications. Like, love you all.
Thank you everyone for showing up for SASS. Thank you for everyone's like involvement and your input and sharing so like sincerely and authentically. You are what makes SASS so wonderful. So I love you. See you guys in the morning at the live. See the guild members in a few hours. Bye, guys.